We're doing section 1.4 finally, and we've talked about several things. We've talked about point, line, and plane. We've learned how to label stuff. We've learned how to label a point with a capital letter. We've learned how to label a line with a little line symbol with the arrows on it. Line segment we've talked about. We've talked about a lot of different things. Okay, here's one thing that we haven't discussed yet, and it looks like this. So it looks like a line at first, but is that right there a line? No, because it has no arrows on it. But what if I put an arrow just on one end? All right, so let's say there's an end point right here. Is this a line segment? No, a line segment has a beginning and it has an end. It stops. But does this thing stop? No, it keeps on going. But does it go in both directions? No, it doesn't go in both directions. It only goes in what? In one direction. Okay, it has a starting point, or we call this an end point. All right, so this is an end point, and this arrow represents that it keeps on going forever. All right, so it's like a combination of a line segment and a line, isn't it? Because a line segment's got two endpoints. A line keeps on going in both directions. Well, this has got one of each, right? It's got one endpoint, not two, just one endpoint, and it keeps going in one direction. Now, it doesn't have to go left to right. I mean, it could go diagonally if you wanted to draw it like that, okay? You could have one that goes like this, all right? All these are the same thing, and I heard somebody say it already. You've probably learned this at some point before, but this is called array, all right? Array. And it has an endpoint, and it goes in just one direction. All three of these things are arrays. Well, let's talk about how to label array. The endpoint, it's a point, so we use a capital letter. Now, I'm going to put another point somewhere on this array. Tell you what, I'm going to get rid of these. It's just kind of in the way. All right. So this is how we do this. If I want to name the array, now remember with line segment and lines, it didn't matter which one went first. Like it was line AB. You know, it could be AB or it could be BA, couldn't it? On array, it absolutely matters which one goes first. Okay, which one do you think might go first here?
AB.
Right, it goes AB. The endpoint always goes first. So you might want to jot that down in your notes. I'm not going to write it down, but you write it down. Say the endpoint always goes first. So I wanted to label this thing. I would call this ray AB. The A goes first and then the B. But I need a symbol. Okay, if I don't have a symbol over top of it, it's talking about the length of line segment AB. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about this whole ray. And this is what it looks like. It's pretty easy. It's just a little line. It's supposed to be a straight line. It looks a little crooked right there. But it's a straight line with one arrow. Okay, that means ray AB. Now, it doesn't matter if this ray is going to the left or it's going diagonal. We always draw a ray symbol like this. Okay? It always goes left to right. Our symbol does. Everybody understand that? Now, what always has to go first? The what? Well, in general, the endpoint. The endpoint always has to go first. We're not going to call this ray BA. It doesn't start at B and go through A, does it? It starts where? At point A, and it goes through what point? Point B. Now, I could put another point in here if I wanted to. Let's just call it C. Now, look at this. This didn't change my ray. This is still ray AB. But I got another choice now on what I could call this ray. What else do you think I might be able to call this ray?
BA.
No, I can't call it BA because it's not starting at B and it doesn't keep on going through A. I could call it AC. Right? Now notice, I didn't use 3 points, did I? I only used 2 points. Not allowed. No, you only use 2 points. I could have, and these are all rays. This is ray AC, and this is ray AB. All right? It's the same exact ray. Ray AC and ray AB are the same exact ray. It starts at A, and what did I say? It goes what? Through. It goes through, and it keeps on going through. It doesn't stop at C. It doesn't stop at B, does it? That arrow represents it does what? Keeps on going. That's right. So I could call this ray AC, or I could call it ray AB. Now, could I call it ray CB? This whole thing. Could I call it ray CB? That's right, because C is not my endpoint. A is my endpoint, okay? So this whole ray right here would be considered ray AB. Does that make any sense? All right, so that's a ray. Now, it could go in another direction if we wanted it to. It could go diagonal. It could go all kinds of different ways. So what if I did this? What would I call this ray right here?
YX.
YX. Good, because you have to start at the end point and it goes through X. Now notice, our little symbol, even though this looks like it's going to the left, this ray, our symbol always goes this way. All right? Does that make sense? Because I've seen some people do this. Like, the ray would be going in this direction. And, I mean, I'll give them credit for being creative. But, let's say that's P and that's R right there. Okay? And I've seen people do this. Oh, this is ray PR. Like that. Okay? Because that's the direction that the ray's going. But that's not how you write it. Does that make sense? So I would just write what? PR and the arrow going like this. This is just a symbol. That symbol never changes. Even the direction of our ray, doesn't matter where our ray is going, our symbol is always going to look the same. So that's what we call a ray. Everybody with me on that? Okay, so that's really not all we're talking about today. We're going to use a ray to be able to do something else. All right? And let's do this. Let's go different color. I'm tired of that. Orange, okay. So watch this. I'm going to have a ray going in this direction. There's the end point, so there's one ray. Watch, I'm going to have another ray, but watch what I'm going to be careful to do. I'm going to have that other ray start at that same end point. So I actually have two rays here, don't I? Okay, and they both have that same end point. Would you agree? They both meet right here. So this ray right here has this end point. This bottom ray has the same exact end point. Let's we'll call that point A. We'll call that, let's just be different, E and J. All right. Okay, so here's our two rays. So what are our two rays? Let's name the two rays. Ray, let's say put the word ray in front of it. Ray AE and ray AJ. Could I call this ray JA? No, because this is not my endpoint. This is just a point somewhere on the ray. This is my endpoint. It's got to start there. Okay? Well, we just call it endpoints because it's on the end. It doesn't mean that it finishes there. It just means it's on the end of it. Okay? So that's why we call it an endpoint. Everybody with me so far? Now look what I formed. I formed one big thing right here, didn't I? With those two rays. And what do you think we call that thing, Nicole? An angle. That's right. This thing right here is called an angle. All right? And we'll talk about that in a second, but right now it's just an angle. So what's an angle made up of? An angle is made up of how many rays? Two rays, that's right. So it's made up of ray AE, and it's made up of ray what? AJ. All right? We actually give this a name. So the two rays themselves are called the sides of the angle. So that's a side of the angle, and that's a side of the angle. All right, I should just put side. Okay. This point right here, the end point that's shared by both of those rays, we have a name for that as well. We call that a vertex. It's really important. Writing this down? A lot of people are just sitting there, hands on their head, not writing. You should be writing. The point right here is considered the vertex. Okay, the end point, right? So a vertex is a point, and on this particular angle, that's the vertex. Everybody with me? Yeah, it's not so hard, is it? Now we have to name the angle. We got to have and we have symbols for all kinds of stuff, don't we? We've got symbols for line segments, for lines, for rays, right? We just did that today. Well, we have a symbol for an angle as well, and it looks like this. It looks like a slanted. It should be a little bit straighter. Let's try that one more time. It looks like an L, right? But it's a little bit slanted. Looks like an angle, doesn't it? Okay, that's our symbol for angle, and we always put that in front of our angle. Now watch. Remember how we said on the rays the endpoint has to be first? Well, on an angle, we're actually going to use 3 letters to describe an angle, and that vertex has to go in the middle. All right, you may want to jot that down somewhere in your notes. The vertex has to be in the middle. So what we do, we could start with either E or J. It doesn't make any difference. Let's just start with E for right now. So we could call this, and if the vertex has to be in the middle, what do you think we'll call this angle? Angle what? E, A, J. Good. All right. So that's one possibility that you could call this angle, or you could call it something else. Because it doesn't start off with A. Listen to what I said. I said the A has to be in the middle. The vertex has to be in the middle on the angle. Okay, when we're talking about the angle itself, the vertex has to be in the middle. We're going to use 3 letters, 3 points, and the vertex has to be in the middle. All right, write that down. I told you to write it down earlier. Write it down. The vertex has to be in the middle. So I could start with either one of these other points on the ray. I could start with E or I could start with J, as long as what? What has to be true though? The A has to be in the middle. The vertex has to be in the middle. Good. So what's another way that I could write this angle? I could write it EAJ or what? JE, or sorry, AE. All right, so I could write it like that. Everybody with me so far? Now here's another way. Here's another OR. Now I said that you have to use 3, but if it's just one angle right here, I could just call this by the name of the vertex if I wanted to. All right, so I could just call it angle A. So you're thinking, well, why call it this stuff? Why don't you just call it angle A in the beginning? Well, there are reasons for that, and we'll get to that a little bit later. All right, but for the most part, we'll probably go with the 3 letters. All right. Now, sometimes they'll do this. I'll throw another thing in here. Sometimes they'll actually put a number in between the 2 rays. So that's another way that you could name the angle. So there's all kinds of different ways you can name the angle. Sometimes they'll stick a number in here. Sometimes they don't. All right. Sometimes they do. But in this case, that's a 1 right there. So I could call this what? Put another OR here. I could call it angle what? 1. Just call it angle 1. It's always nice when they stick a number in there. It makes it a little easier. Just call it angle 1. I don't have to use all these different letters and stuff. But there are times when they don't number the angle. All right, so you have to use EAJ or JAE. What if they did this? What if they stuck another letter in here, like, I don't know, let's just call it C. Well, look, I could either start with the E or I could start with the C. It doesn't make any difference. So I got other options now, don't I? I could call it, what's another option I could call this angle? CAJ, right. Or I could call it JAC. Everybody see that? It's the same exact angle. It's just another way to name the angle. So there's all kinds of different possibilities that you can name the angle. If it was me, and I was looking in the book and there was a problem, and if there's like a whole bunch of points, let's say there was a point labeled here, and there was a point labeled here, and then there was another one here. Look at all those different possibilities I could call this angle. Okay, I could call it EAF, I could call it EAG, I could call it EAJ, I could call it CAF, or CAG. You get it? It's a lot of different ways. It's the same angle, but there's a lot of different names to that angle. Like Isaiah is Isaiah, and he's Zeke, right? He's got 2 names. He's the same person. It's the same thing here. It's like 2 different ways to name this. Everybody with me? Or I could just name it angle 1. That's always kind of nice way to do it too. Let's see. Where do I want to go with this? Now, let's do this. What if I had an angle here, 1 here, and 1 here? Remember how I said you could just use 1 letter? Well, on this one, look at this. I'll just, for lack of imagination, just use these letters. C and bless you. All right, now look at this. How many angles do I have here? Do I have 2? Where's the 3rd one? The whole big one, right? Look, I got that whole big angle, right? And I got this medium looking one, right? And I got this little skinny one right here. Everybody see that? So there's actually 3 angles there, aren't there? Okay. Let's name the 3 angles. Let's name the whole big angle first. What's the whole big angle? Angle what? A. Now the B has to go in the middle. So it's going to be A, B, D. Right. So that's the whole big one. I could go backwards, couldn't I? If I went backwards, I could call it what? D, B, A. All right. What about this medium-sized one? This one right here. What would I call that one? Angle ABC. Good. All right, what about this little skinny one? What would I call that angle? CBD. Are you getting used to naming these angles now? All right, that's the kind of stuff that they're going to ask you to do, is give different names. Now, it would be nice. Angle 1 is the same as angle what? ABC. ABC, right. I could call it ABC. Now watch. Could I call this angle 1 right here? Could I just call it angle B? Because remember before I said you could just use 1 letter, couldn't you?
Yeah, but that's not a straight line.
But then how would I know which one's angle B? If I just said angle B, how do I know I'm not talking about the whole angle? Or I could talk about this one right here, or I could talk about this one right here. Because notice, every one of these angles has the same vertex, doesn't it, Sean? No, you're not going to do that. You're not going to combine the numbers and the letters. Okay, it's either angle 1 or it's angle ABC. Or CBA. That's the only way that you can name them. You can't combine them together. Okay? So I could call this angle 2, or I could call it CBD or DBC. All right? What about this whole big one. See what I just did right there? I just drew a thing called an arc. We're going to use those arcs quite a bit to show the difference between one angle and another angle. So what about that whole big arc right there? I can't just call it angle B, right? Because I don't know if I'm talking about angle 1, angle 2, or the whole big one, right? So the whole big one would be ABD, right, or BDA. We've discussed that already. Does that make sense? Okay. When's this over? Oh, it's 35? I think it is, yeah, because we're still on the same time schedule, I think. I believe we are. Yep. All right, let's do this. Good. Now we measure angles using a protractor. You probably did that when you were a kid, didn't you? Measured. You never did that using a protractor? Okay. Well, you've never used a protractor? Where'd you go to school? There's a lot of things you haven't done. Watch this. Let's not use that one. Let's use this one. Tell you what, let's do it like this. Sorry. Let's start here. Now, if we had a protractor, I'm just a little short on time. I'll tell you what, let's find a protractor. Are you still recording? Yep. Online protractor. Let's see if I can get one. Ooh, what's my angle? I think I actually... Oh, there's a protractor. Cool. But is it gonna... I don't know if I can... Oh, stink. Oh, it's a whole, like, lesson. That's not what I wanted. Yes, stink. Well, that's actually... Let's do it here. Do they have a stop? Is that at the bottom? Skip. Oh, that's an intro. All right, well, this is kind of good. Is it stopping here? Well, anyway, look. It's from 0 to what? What do we measure angles in? We measure them in degrees. Right, these numbers right here are in degrees. So this angle right here is measured in degrees. And this is what we're going to talk about. Yeah, let's just watch this. This is cool. So that was less than 90 is acute. Oh, my goodness, going fast. Then obtuse. And then, well, reflexive. I'm not going to do that one. Well, anyway. I'll tell you what. Let's go to this. Let's go to math. Do I have a math thing? There's math. And I think I have this. All right. There we go. Uh-oh, close that. I don't want to sign up for anything. There we go. This is what I want. Check that out. Isn't that cool? Yeah, I should have done that from the start. Watch, this is kind of cool, though. Watch. Start. What we're going to do is we're going to look at this angle right here. If we're going to use this protractor, we take this protractor and we move it and see where they come together. See where the vertical and the horizontal come together at that dot right there. I'm going to put that at the vertex of this angle. So at what point is the vertex of this angle? Angle B, or point B, right. So I'm going to put it right there. And so if you take a look at this, it starts at 0 and it goes 10, 20, 30, and then it goes 90. So it's somewhere between where? 90 and 100. So which one do you think it would be here? 96. You are correct. Yay, us. Okay. Watch this. You go like this. You put this where? Right there. So it lines up with one of the lines, with one of the rays, right? You look at this. What would it be?
75.
Yeah. Oh, it's close. It could be either one, couldn't it?
No, not really.
You think it's 175? Nope. Try again. Oh, Zeke. All right. And then this one right here is, what's that? About 84, right, because if it went straight up and down, it'd be 90, wouldn't it? So that's 84. Okay, you're correct. All right, you get the idea, don't you? Okay, enough of that. So if we have an angle like this, if it went straight up and down, because if you look at the protractor, look, straight up and down is how many degrees? 90. And then anything smaller, watch, if the angle starts getting closer to 0, somewhere between 0 and 90, all right, it's going to be less than 90 degrees. Agree? So this one right here is 90 degrees. And you've seen this before, I'm sure. But sometimes we'll put a little box there. What does that little box represent? It's a right angle. Okay, we call it a right. And I'll put the symbol. Right. Yeah, you learned this stuff when you were a kid, didn't you? So this is. Listen, please. Listen. Shh. You keep going. Don't you hear my shush? So watch. This is a right angle. A right angle is equal to 90 degrees. All right, I could put the arrows on here. Sometimes they don't put the arrows on the end, but they're still representing as rays. Okay, so this is 90 degrees. Look, if I went all the way around, from here to here is 90, and then if I continue this out like that, that would be another 90, wouldn't it? Okay, and then if I took this straight down like that, everybody watching? So this would be 90, this is 90, this is 90, this is 90. What if I started here and went all the way around to there? It'd be 360 degrees, wouldn't it? Okay, all right, so that's just something. So a right angle is 90 degrees. Let's make sure we know that. What if we had an angle that looks like this? Now, is that bigger than 90 or less than 90 or equal to 90? It's less than 90 because 90 would go up here, wouldn't it? But this thing is going down closer to the 0. So this is less than 90. And so we call that an acute angle, all right, which is less than 90 degrees. Now, some teachers wouldn't like me writing that, less than 90 degrees. A lot of teachers would say it's between 0 and 90, all right? But it's basically less than 90, okay? So we'll say less than 90 because, anyway, I'm not going to go on for that. All right, we go to that. So that's an acute angle. You writing these down? Now, what if we had, so we had one that's equal to 90, one that's less than 90. What do you think might be next? One that is what? Larger than 90, right? So, yeah, so this is greater than 90 because, again, 90 would come up here, wouldn't it? All right, but this keeps on going, and it's bigger than 90, and we do call that an obtuse angle. And that is what? Greater or more than 90 degrees. Again, a lot of teachers wouldn't like that because you could go more than 180, which is greater than 90, and we don't really call that an obtuse angle, but it's between 90 and 180, okay, if you want to be real particular with this. All right, so greater than 90 degrees. Everybody good with that? Now, look at this. A lot of people don't realize that this is an actual angle. Right? Yeah, it's a straight line. Watch this. That's a ray, isn't it? Now remember what a ray is. A ray or an angle are two rays connected at the end point, aren't they? All right, so let me watch this. I'm going to do the other one in another color just so that you see the difference between the two. Blue. Okay. Yep. So watch this. It starts at the same vertex, doesn't it? But it goes. It's a little high. Let's drop it down a little bit right there. That looks good. So they are two different rays. Would you agree? But look at the angle that it makes. If it went straight up and down, that would be 90. But then we went another what? 90. So how many degrees is this angle right here? It's 180 degrees. So it actually is an angle. People look at it and say, well, it's a straight line. Well, yeah, it is. True. That's true. It is a straight line. But a straight line makes 180 degrees. We actually call this not a straight line, but a straight, what do you think? Angle. My writing's terrible. I'm trying to write too fast. Okay, it's a straight angle. So a straight angle is equal to 180 degrees. Let me give you a worksheet. I think you might be able to do most of it. There might be a couple at the end you might struggle with, and we'll hit that next class. Okay, let me give you a worksheet before you leave.